Love is a high-risk behavior.
Back in the day, in one of my movement classes, the teacher that I had used to take us through this total body warm-up involving lots of undulating, lots of twisting and turning, etc. And when we would finish, my body would just be buzzing, just feeling the blood rush through my muscles, and my heart rate was slowly coming down, and my breath was just settling in my body. And it was so interesting because even with all of these things going on, I would always have the temptation to just fix my clothes. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. I would have done all of these movements without thought or care of what I was even wearing at the time. But when it came time to get still, it ached me to be disheveled. There's this thing that we do as humans, all of us in different ways, where we make these adjustments to relieve the pressure of being uncomfortable. And for some of us, it's adjusting our clothing or fiddling around with our hands or scratching, tapping, biting nails, stimming. And maybe for you, it's not as dramatic. You might just pop your headphones in to avoid interacting with others because it's uncomfortable. Discomfort comes in so many forms that we don't usually realize how much we actually adjust on a daily basis. We adjust to ease tension. And I have recently tried to sort of take a page from my old movement teacher's book and allow myself to finish moving and not need to fix myself for comfort or for presentation or for acceptance or for this arbitrary chase of peace of mind. We live in a world that is constantly throwing things in our faces to help us ease our discomfort. Every day, something is pointing towards pain relief or inconvenience relief. And some of these things are tangible, like taking a painkiller for cramps or migraines, and then others are a bit more stealthy, like escapism through mental stimulation that we use to distract us from whatever is presently stressing us or paining us, right? That could be healthy things like reading, watching movies, listening to music, and of course, there are unhealthy things as well that are a little more extreme, like extreme isolation or abuse of those painkillers or doom scrolling, which I've been doing a lot of recently. For some reason, I've been just checked out. Anything, though, that would really help us stave off the need to address that thing, whatever it is, head on. We all have ways that we manage to avoid discomfort. And for many of us, those effects of discomfort turn into unhealthy habits that lead to more heartache and more stress and more need for adjusting. Today, I want to speak about how sometimes it's okay to just be, with no edits, no adjustments or escaping, just being. Sometimes sitting with ourselves in our discomfort is the only true way that we are able to get out of it and to get rid of it for good. So I want to talk to you about how it's okay to be uncomfortable. So let's relate. I used to work for this company that had a really strong internal culture of feedback and accountability. From our work ethic to customer and community relations, this company for me helped me to expand my perspective of self-improvement. We would regularly have floor meetings and leadership calls that were centered around the subject of feedback. Feedback at this time was much more appreciated, I think, than it is now. And it was much more necessary to align these kind of converging ideations that we all brought underneath this one roof of our workplace. This was a time when we all had our uniquenesses, but we were still meant to be one band, one sound in the workplace. So there was a lot of workshopping going on and a lot of feedback as a means to keep us in alignment. Because of this practice of meeting of the minds and aligning ourselves so regularly, there were people who weren't quite taking to the culture, and they would say that those of us who did were drinking the Kool-Aid. It's really funny now because looking back, I can see how people might have felt that way, but I was totally sold out and I was drinking the Kool-Aid myself because this system and this culture and way of being was one that really worked so well for my personality. I am a lover of feedback, regardless of how much it stings. I want you to give it to me and give it to me straight, Doc. I want the bad news first. Tell me if my husband is cheating or if my child is skipping school. Do not keep it to yourself, please. I love to know all the things, but particularly the things that are going to cause me to have to make major adjustments in my life. Some people might call this being a glutton for punishment or maybe even people pleasing, but this is how I have functioned most of my life. And I understand that, I'm not perfect. This desire, though, to hear criticism is really strong in me. So, a culture that rides on feedback and accountability was a chef's kiss for me. Anyway, I had a few really glaring moments of feedback that was given to me while I was working for this company. And one of the most memorable ones, I might have told the story before, I can't remember, maybe in the first season, there was a boss of mine that I had. Oh man, I loved her. This lady was amazing. She's Canadian. The company that I worked for was Canadian. And she basically told me that I was going to lose my job if I didn't get to work earlier. Now, this is a tangent, a little side note. I was stopping at Starbucks. This was back when we could do that. I was stopping at Starbucks. This is a lot of years ago, you guys. Stopping at Starbucks that was 2 doors down from my workplace every day before work. And I was always 5 minutes late to work. It wasn't what she told me that made me uncomfortable. It wasn't the subject nature that made me feel discomfort in that moment. It was actually the confrontation of my ego about a thing that I knew I was wrong about, but I didn't have the accountability to fix. I remember this lump when she told me this forming in my throat, and I felt like I wanted to cry as she dropped this ego check on me. And I just stood there as she was very plainly telling me that I was too valuable to be making such valueless decisions. And what a poor way to go out, right? It was the confrontation of a thing I already knew that made me uncomfortable because finally someone else saw it. I was spotted. She clocked it. And outside of the feedback hitting my ego, forcing growth on me or suffering the consequences otherwise, I was more greatly impacted by my ability to take it. No excuses needed to be made. I didn't need to fix her viewpoint on me. I didn't need to save face. I didn't need to soothe my ego and continue lying to myself. I just needed to be uncomfortable with the truth. And I know there's someone out here that understands. Sometimes you just need to be uncomfortable with the truth. Stop adjusting to make the truth less likely. It's the truth. This is such a specific message, so I really do hope it reaches the one that it is meant for. But sister, it is time to sit in the discomfort of the truth. Whatever it is about your life, it's time to confront the parts of yourself that want to keep the lie going. Don't wait for the feedback to reveal you to you. You can actually be proactive in facing the truth where you are relationally with God, where you are relationally with your friends, with your siblings, that mother wound, that father wound. You can look at it now. Acknowledge it. Study it. Become acquainted with the parts of you that make you uncomfortable. When people give me feedback about me, it's not always easy to digest, but I still want it because I realize it's out of that discomfort that change is made. It's not made in the parts where I keep lying to myself and others about who I am. Maybe it's the discomfort of acknowledging that your accountability isn't actually someone else's responsibility. We won't always be graced with that merciful intercessor like my old boss that's going to be there to help us to become a better us, to help us to become more accountable. These days, honestly, that's rare because people are so afraid to make each other uncomfortable anyway, because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. No one wants to be uncomfortable anymore. Now, I'm going to pivot and make a 180 on this subject because I've been speaking about this from a first-person perspective. I've been speaking about how I am uncomfortable. But what I've realized is that my manner of being, even when it's not in direct relation to a person, makes some people uncomfortable. We every day are making others uncomfortable, and sometimes we're not even aware of it. Sometimes we are just existing, and it makes people uncomfortable with our existence. And then other times there are things that we are making them confront in themselves because of how we exist or how we act. But either way, there's this great benefit for each party when it's done healthily. There's a great benefit in being uncomfortable. If you've ever done something and the underlying feeling that you had was discomfort, nervousness, anxiety, all that it takes is the reframing of that discomfort to produce something very beautiful from it. The way you see things, like my former boss telling me that I would be fired if I didn't prioritize my value, could have sent me spiraling into a pit of self-sabotage. But that moment, I realized, was not a woe is me moment. It was something that I recognized as an opportunity to reframe the way that I saw myself. I chose not to recoil into the wrongness of me, but rather choose the discomfort of the truth, which is I was late. I was wrong. I was willingly being late, and I will be jobless if I don't fix it. It was an opportunity to seize progress in my character, in my relationship to her, and my personal values. That feedback gave me a chance to alter the way that I see things, but I couldn't have done that without a check and balance to my ego. And what I was saying earlier is you don't want to wait for those checks and balances. You've got to sit down with yourself and address the ugly truth. That discomfort gave me the opportunity to rise to a different level of self. Polly Campbell from Psychology Today writes, perceiving negative experiences as a sign of progress is particularly motivating when positive experiences are delayed and discomfort is immediate. It isn't easy, but we get a lifetime of practice of learning to cope with discomfort because whether we step into it or not, life always throws up challenges. I like the idea that we can embrace them and use them to propel us. Even if we crash and we burn, we are growing. And in the end, that discomfort turns into good feelings of achievement, satisfaction, resilience. There is comfort in knowing that. As someone who has been athletic literally my entire life, there are so many levels to physical discomfort, and you develop ways to kind of ease that through movement and stretching and massages and chiropractic treatments, etc. And what I've noticed is the need for those remedies will never stop. As long as I'm alive, I'm going to need to adjust. I'm going to need to remedy the pain that I'm feeling. I will always need them. But one of the most valuable things I have learned as a lifelong athlete is also how to sit in it, how to just be uncomfortable. Being an aerialist, there are times when you're holding a pose, especially with photo shoots, it's the worst. You're holding a pose 20 seconds, 30 seconds, which is terrible when you're in the air. You need to move your body. This is meant to be not a tableau, but a motion picture. This is not a still picture, but sometimes we have to take still pictures, right? It is very uncomfortable, but you have to stick it to get through to the end, to get the end result that you are looking for. When I stretch my hamstring that has scar tissue from an old injury, it's extremely difficult to fight the urge to stop. When I stretch my hamstring that has scar tissue from an old injury that I had back in my 20s, I realize it's extremely difficult to fight the urge to just stop. Like, Christina, you're hurting. Why would you want to work through your scar tissue? Well, because I have an end game or end goal in mind. And it would be really easy to just stop going towards the end game and relieve myself of the pain that I'm feeling. But I also understand that that level of discomfort is necessary for me to kind of break through this injury, this post-injury thing that happens where you develop scar tissue. If I want to get back to my level of flexibility and mobility, if I want to be able to move the way that I used to move, I've got to actually work through that. So I just sit in it. I breathe through it. I face it. I accept the reality of it. Pain is something that the body signals to us to let us know that there is potential danger. But not all pain is dangerous. Some of it is just a reminder that there was danger there. Some of it is there to alert us that there could potentially be danger there, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that there is danger there. And, I was injured by something and it was very uncomfortable, but I had to rehabilitate. I have to get back to what I want to be. It's uncomfortable to face the truth that my flexibility has decreased when I always was able to do a thing, right? Sometimes we think, man, I've just been doing this all my life. This is how I've always been. No one said anything yet. And then I meet somebody and they're confronting things about me and they actually are saying things that make me uncomfortable. It's got to be them. It can't be me. Not realizing that everybody that's never said anything has fallen away. You've always been left alone. And then you meet somebody that wants to love you differently. And they hold that mirror up to you and they tell you some things about yourself and it's really uncomfortable to face. But adjusting out of that is never the option. Not if you're looking to go beyond where you currently are. And I personally want to heal. So I have to stretch. I have to foam roll. I have to move through the discomfort. And the same goes for my heart. And maybe yours as well. We were injured by someone. We developed a scar over that injury. And now, in relating to others, the truth might be brushing up against that scar tissue. We sustained a wound that felt too hard to come back from and too impossible to heal through. But what other option can you take if you're going to seize the life that God has promised you than to go through it? To go through it, the discomfort of getting to know new people, the discomfort of expanding your territory, the discomfort of having that conversation with mom or dad that you never wanted to have. Discomfort doesn't always need to be adjusted to our liking. We can utilize it to launch us into a greater relationship with ourselves. We will increase our sense of motivation. Relationships with others will grow, definitely more intimately as well. And just the sheer walking through the immediate discomfort, knowing that it's fleeting and coming out on the other side is important to our sense of self-achievement. It's so important to our sense of value and efficacy. For the intangible, those moments in your relationships where you have your first disagreement can be very uncomfortable. And it's so important in setting the tone to where that relationship can go. How you handle that, how you walk through that discomfort will determine everything else that follows. But if you and that other person aren't able to sit in it, forcing the other to adjust to your satisfaction instead, for the stroking of your ego instead, you're going to end up losing an opportunity for growth, for trust, for intimacy, endurance. Now, everybody doesn't deserve that, okay? Everyone doesn't deserve that allowance. Everyone doesn't deserve to be worked with. It's just how it is. But we are to count it all joy when we face those fiery trials, because we know that what's being worked in us, our faith in what God has for us, is being worked out. Our faith in the outcome, though it doesn't feel right in the moment, we know it's just a moment. And that moment is producing in us a steadfastness of endurance. It's meant to perfect us. Like a diamond being pressured or gold being cured in fire. It's to make us whole, more beautiful, to make us complete. We are to rejoice in certain levels of discomfort, not all of it, because we're not going through it by ourselves. God said he would never leave nor forsake us. That's what God is using this moment for, as an opportunity for you to become complete, less insecure, less egotistical, less needing to people please, less of all of that and more like God. Discomfort can serve you when you choose it. Despite what the internet tells you, confronting the truth is the gateway to freedom in everything. This is a short word of encouragement that I hope may serve you well, my sister. Confront the things that need to be addressed. Don't wait for others to hold you accountable to you, but if they do, sit in it with them. Sit in it. Thank you so much for loving yourself first, so you can then go and love your neighbor. Until next time.